Sorry, folks. I think I just. All right, fam. What's up with the squad? It's Cess, your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies in the building. Back with another pull up. It says Talk Sports in the BY's PoliSports Tea Time, where we break it down the politics, the economics, and the race and gender game, changing everything in pro sports. Today, we diving into a heavy but necessary combo. Racialized labor markets, the WNBA CBA, and power dynamics in sports. Look, y'all, we have watched this league built on Black excellence, past, present, future. Keep pushing for equity, visibility, real respect in a system that too often basically tries to downplay their worth. So from opt-outs to salary cap, from endorsements to bargaining chips, this ain't just about contract. It's about control. It's about visibility. It's about value. So we're going to pull back the curtain on the WNBA CBA, look at the labor dynamics in the league, and ask the real questions. These three. These two, I'm sorry. Who really holds the power in women's sports? How deep does race run in shaping that reality? So let's buckle up. We're about to get into it. I got my co-host that never holds her tongue, Political Lil in the building. Lil, what's up?
all right. Thanks, Auntie Cess. Look, let's be real. The WNBA isn't just negotiating contracts; they're negotiating their worth in a market that has long undervalued Black women's labor. This isn't just about salaries; it's about systemic power. And from the media bias to investment gaps and the racial dynamics of player promotion, Black women in the WNBA are at an intersection of a racialized, genderized labor market. The opt-out of the CBA is a political move and a reminder that players are not just athletes, they're workers, and they're fighting for dignity. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what a racialized market is and how it works in the world of sports. Now, racialized labor market is a system where race shapes who gets hired, how much they get paid, and how they work, how their work is valued. And that's both culturally and economically. It reinforces stereotype, limits access to leadership and ownership, and creates unequal working conditions that are based on race. In sports, it shows up as unequal pay and unequal opportunity despite performance. Stereotyping Black women as strong and aggressive, while the white athletes in the market are seen as smart and marketable. And it shows up in media and corporate bias that uplifts whiteness as more sellable to mainstream audiences. So that's the premise of what a racialized labor market is.
Okay. And in the chat, y'all let me know. Have y'all seen examples where race seemed to affect how an athlete was treated, paid, or promoted? And why do you think Black athletes are often labeled athletic while white athletes are called smart or strategic? Now, and I know we usually talk women's hoops here, but I mean, when the current event is a current event, we gonna do what we do. So the name that I would drop in the chat right now would be Shadur Sanders. If that's not the most in your face, I'm gonna teach you a lesson. Let me show you something about what a racialized labor market is. And now I'm seeing stuff where they talking about he might even get cut. Right? So let me we didn't get to really talk about Shadur. I'm gonna get into the WNBA as a racialized market, but if you don't mind, real quick, your thoughts on Shadur, what we saw as him go from projected to be at one point a number one pick to he get picked in the 5th round, the 6th round. What was that? And what does that say to us as far as racialized labor markets?
Well, it's just a it's a power flex. In other words, they you have to understand sports entities are racialized labor market in that the power is here for whites and the labor is predominantly down at the stage of Blacks. So as an athlete, you really can't run in there talking about what you gonna do and how you gonna do it when you don't have the power to make that choice. And so I think what happened with him is, now he got a little stereotyped on this, him being confident, of course they equating that to cockiness. I don't think it was that, but when you start telling, it's okay to say, don't pick me if you don't want your if your organization not looking to go next level now, that's all entertainment. This little watch thing, that's entertainment. Sports is an entertainment entity, but you cannot forget the politics nor can you forget the political climate. Now I'm gonna tell you my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Had he pulled this in last year's draft, I still think he would have went first round, second or third pick. My opinion. Now, you in a white grievance political climate.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting ready to buck a system that's in fear of already losing their prestige on the international stage. And then you're going to take the largest, football is the largest sport thing that they have, that they export globally. And then you want to, you can't, you gotta read the room, and you have to be able to understand how you operate in these power systems. And it's just a few little things they said that I think made them boys, and that's the good old boy network, because we don't have any black owners, sit back and say, look, we're gonna have to make a move, because Dion has a pipeline of good players, and we don't want him controlling the labor market. And I think that's what it came down to. And so he got pushed out of the money, because he lost a lot of money not going in the first round. When you look at them bonuses, you're like, my Lord. I think he down to the bottom of the barrel in terms of pay. He can only make $4 million, where he could have been making $10 or $12 million a year.
He could have. And what I want people here's the thing that I'll say about him. Right? So he probably lost up maybe 50 million, right? Mm-hmm. And he going in the fifth round. The thing that'll work out for him is that he'll be able to get back to his money quicker than players signed in the first round, right? Because his contract will be shorter. He'll be able to opt out and go wherever it is. I mean, not opt out, but finish out his contract and go wherever he goes. I'm hearing that they say he may get cut. We'll see. I think that even bigger than just this climate, this was about his father. This was about his father. Now think about this. Deion Sanders has two young men good enough to go pro in the NFL. Do you know what that means to generational wealth to a family that already has generational wealth? Right? Like, think about that. Because they've downplayed Shiloh like he ain't good enough since he was in college. But he really good enough.
Yeah.
He really good enough. He's gonna end up on somebody's team, and he's gonna help a team win. Shadur, Dion. Another thing is that it's almost like Don in a way. It's like you trying to beat Dion, you trying to beat Don. They not lacing up no more. You had your shot at them. You couldn't beat them. What I loved about Shadur, and I hated that we had to watch this play out, but this was a great lesson for everybody to be able to see, and it was very timely. What I like is the way that they handled it.
Mm-hmm.
Shiloh is a damn good big brother. He was funny when he needed to be. He kept his spirits up. We never seen them pout on TV. We never seen them fight with each other. Y'all didn't think that y'all was gonna see that family all stand together and take a picture. Y'all was waiting on controversy. Y'all was waiting on scandal with Pilar coming to the home. And like them boys said, Daddy ain't got no choice. Daddy ain't got no choice. At the end of the day, this is the biggest day in our life. How and why would he? He ain't like that. Whatever their relationship is, that's between Dion and Pilar. So people was waiting for all of this scandal, and they just kept from round 1 to 5 through the old bullshit prank call.
Mm-hmm.
All of this stuff. Y'all kept trying to humiliate this young man on TV. All he kept saying is everything happened for a reason. God got me. Look at me now. Now he got his chance. So everybody got to look out now. But if you don't believe that politics spills into sports, if you don't believe that there's a bigger narrative besides who got the best talent, y'all didn't watch the draft this last week.
Yeah, because it was on full display. I mean, and that's part of the problem. You are operating in spaces that are not owned, for you. So you have to, no matter how well you have done in the past, and you still have to be careful how you move. Mm-hmm. And you have to be careful not to play your hand. I mean, it's just like poker. You know, you got a hand that you dealt, and you have to play it, and then you can't let others know, you know, that you know, coming all out to play that way. Like a lot of people were critical, saying that well, Manning he determined where his boys was gonna play and what they wasn't gonna do this and that. But he's white,
and
operating in a system that's owned by the group that he's a part of.
Watch how they handle little Archie next year. Because it's gonna be another Manning turn next year. Watch how they handle Archie next year.
And you know, I keep, you know, if you if you're not on top of the power structure, you just cannot call the shots the way you want to. So you have to do things in a way that's a little more smooth to still get what you want. And as far as him making up the money, that's not going to be made up off, you know, the NFL's any one of those teams backs. You know, that's going to come from the public, who's going to see. This is how they exploit you. You know, now everybody all emotionally charged up about what happened to this young man. So naturally, people going to run out and support him, buy his jersey. You know, to let
to show support.
Yeah, to let the power structure, you know this, he got some weight behind him. But that's still not coming out their pocket. See, the Browns, to me, they trying to make up for that $236 million blunder they made. But they ain't gonna make it off. They're gonna make it on somebody else's body. Yeah, but off of somebody exploiting the next person. You see what I'm saying? Now,
absolutely.
They, you know, they don't have to. It's a lot of, you know, things they don't have to pay him. They don't have to guarantee him nothing. First rounds get bonus guarantees. You know, if they do put you off the team, you know, you still walking out there with a paycheck. So you just, you know, I just felt like, as long as Deion been around, now Deion came through in a different era. I think he came through in the 80s, and we was just kind of coming into our own, you know, as a group of people coming off the, you know, where
Deion was more, he was more 90s. He was more 90s.
You know, whenever he came into the picture was just a little different.
Yeah.
You have to watch both the international climate and you have to watch the climate here. You know, this is a nation that had a empire that's in free fall. You know, so it's like, you know, they fighting for their life. You know, and I'm not making no excuse, because the young man was dehumanized in a sense. The way he was treated was really outrageous, but not unprecedented, because this is the way they operate. That's why, you know, I think this show is important, you know, in terms of making people understand that every act is a political act. Politics plays a role in everything going on in your existence. And that's just, you know, that's just the
mind games.
Yeah. So politics is how power is organized. You know, every system in the world, every society has some kind of power structure. And this is just the way it, you know, it's organized here, you know, under some ideology that the labor is inferior and the owners are superior. That, you know, it's just kind of the way they got it set up.
Exactly.
You have to be, you know, you have to be careful. And I think the NFL has a decent collective bargaining agreement, but still, you know, get out of that mindset. I can do what other people do because I got money. Money and power are two different things. You know, you do not have the power to put your son in the NFL, regardless of how much money you have. You know, that's a mechanism controlled by those that own that league, and they're not gonna relinquish.
And as much as Deion is a part of that, as much as Deion is a part of that shield, as much as he is a part of the conversation, you cannot talk about NFL football without talking about one of the greatest to ever to ever lace him up, right? So, and that's Deion, right? So you can't talk about it without him. But still, at the end of the day, it was like, don't forget who you are. You're not really all the way that. And I heard people use systems like that, you know, bucking. I heard them say humbling. I heard people say putting him back in his place. I heard people say he didn't interview well. He was too cocky. The watch thing. And what's interesting is that the watch thing, confident in himself, but nothing really off the field that you could say that was questionable about this young man's character. Nothing that you could say that was questionable about his skill set because he went to Colorado and like I told y'all, he broke every quarterback record they had with only 2 years of playing time. Records that have been set over 4 years.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't the credentials, it's just a system that will push back if you try to establish any power position in it. Mm-hmm. You know, they will, people talking about, oh, I don't think they colluded. You don't have to get together in a room to collude. It could be one person picking up the mantle and say it's not going to go this way, and you'll have 32 other people that'll follow that. You know, that doesn't have to be because they think alike. They have an ownership. That's why they call it an ownership group. You know, they group think. You know, and you are the labor, and they're not gonna have that market control. It's just like, look how long it took for them to end slavery. They were fighting over that market, nail and tooth, even though it was immoral. They were thinking about, you know, they money.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying, you know, money kind of trumps morality for some people.
Mm-hmm. You know that, and I also know that, like y'all said, and I think that was you big dog said, Deion had interviewed for some jobs that he had interviewed for an NFL team last year, and some of these players, some of these coaches, some of these GMs in the first round didn't necessarily want to bring his sons in there with them being on the hot seat. They didn't want to bring somebody in there, you know, bring Shadur in there and then not do well, and then he was already on the hot seat anyway because Deion could be coming for your job. So I get that part of it too. I just hate that it played out the way that it did. I am glad that he made the decision to. No, I really like it more of these players to make the decision to stay at home. I ain't got to come be a part of all of that. Mm-hmm. I don't got to come. I don't got to come to New York and celebrate with y'all because it don't allow me to celebrate with the people who supported me to get to where I'm at right now. Yeah, right? It took them away from that. So I'm loving. I'm loving that. I'm loving that. Officer T. Davis. Oh, God, hit you with the shoulders. Appreciate the support, fam. What is good? What is good? Y'all let me know in the chat, though, some other names of these people that... Y'all said Kennedy, too. What do you think about Kennedy? Are they teaching Kennedy a lesson?
Well, I mean, you know, the bottom line is, you know, in Shadur case, they was talking about, I heard people talking about, well, if you had the talent, you could have the flex. That don't necessarily hold true when you look at Kennedy's situation. That girl has got to be one of the most talented guards in the WNBA, and yet she's been blackballed soft. It's a soft blackball. She may eventually come back, you know, at the end of the season for some team due to an injury or something like that. But they just unequivocal, you know, they just, once again, you cannot go into a work environment. And I keep trying, you know, these athletes, I don't care how much money they make, they still employees. That's what they consider. And so you can't go in certain environments. Every environment has a protocol. Every environment, you know, and so you have to, you know how to politic through that environment. You know, some people saying she got put out the league for bumping Caitlyn Clark. I don't necessarily believe it was that. It could have been a part of it, but I don't think it was that one single incident. Evidently, there was something going on in the locker room or in the environment, period, that, you know, may have gotten to the general manager through some of the other players and you know, then filtered into other teams. So a lot of people don't want to bring her into their locker room. You know how some people been labeled like a poison, you know, in the locker room, this, that, and the other.
and maybe it's got to be something behind the scenes, because other than the hip check, and listen, if you go back and watch that, there was a sequence of things that took place. It wasn't just like a hip check out of nowhere. It wasn't, and it was still, to me, basketball. At the end of the day, you move on. But there's still nothing that I saw where it was like after you had let her back in the league that you could come blackball her for now, unless you think that the only reason she was back in the league was because of Teaspoon.
Well,
like, do you think Teaspoon would have to come back coaching to get Kennedy back on another team? Did Teaspoon bring Kennedy into Chicago? I don't know. For my Chicago Sky fans that in the chat, or Lou, if you know, was it Teaspoon that called for Kennedy to be there?
Well, it was Teaspoon who told management that this was something she could handle, something that she could manage. And I do think that it, some things may have gotten out of pocket, because I don't believe a person like Angel Reese wouldn't speak up for you if it was really not to something going on, in that locker room. Because I mean, although Angel got to keep her stuff in pocket too, but I still think that if it was something that could have been salvaged, then I think it would have been, Angel would have advocated for it to be salvaged. And the fact that the young lady lost her job, Teaspoon lost her job, I think that has something to do with how Kennedy was managed as well. As of course, they're not making the playoffs, but I think we don't know what the young lady needs, or what's missing in her life. That I've heard that it was threats made in the locker room by facial expressions, never a word said. But I heard there was some stare downs and different things like that. And people might have thought she was crazy or something. I don't know. I'm just speculating because I really don't know. But just kind of odd, because that young lady should have been in the league.
And I think that was my thing. And maybe, like I said, I have no idea what went on behind the scenes or what went on in their locker room. But yes, Officer T. Davis, from what I understand, there was some fighting and stuff in years prior, but that was why she was out for a year. So to me, after she had served her time, to me, she was back, and this was like, your second time around. You don't mess this thing up. So it's interesting. It's interesting that she's not signed. I don't necessarily know that it's the same as the Shadur situation. And again, I think, we could, she has a skill set where I think maybe we could see Kennedy signed later in the season if somebody's, trying to get over the hump, or, unfortunately, I'm not wishing anything on anybody, but somebody has a season ending injury where they need to be able to replace some points of scoring. But, I really thought that Kennedy was going to be back in Chicago. I was really excited about what they would look like having Ken back in Chicago.
Yeah, that was Jeff's decision. So, Dana, Izzy, and even E. Will, I think they all had some input into a lot of things that went on, kind of behind the scenes in Chicago. So, you don't know what the man was told. I'm sure he wasn't at practice every day, but you don't know what the man was told and how he was told. Because they wasn't happy with Reese. Apparently, wasn't happy with Camilla, but that was tolerable. And then they was not happy with her taking Dana's place. These veterans felt that it's been a protocol in the league that rookies don't come in playing, or new people don't come in taking spots. Maybe that's been the protocol too long, but these some different rookies coming now. But and so I think they really held Teaspoon accountable, for not letting them run the tables, win, lose, or draw. So that turned into a raggedy situation for Kennedy.
Yeah, but it takes us into like the WNBA as a racialized labor market. Miller and Angel, not typical rookies at all. Not typical rookies, and then you don't typically have two high quality rookies like that on the same team.
And both
coming in the
starred
same year.
neither.
Yeah, both starting. So, but let's talk about the WNBA as a racialized labor market for a moment. Like, so we know the WNBA is majority black women, but the promotion and branding is efforts right now, especially center on white or lighter skinned players. Players like Asia Wilson, despite her dominance, underpromoted compared to players like Caitlyn Clark. And I mean that in the sense like, to me, what we should be promoting is the excellence and the winning. Right, so that's how I don't. When I try to circle it back to how it got to be Caitlyn's face, I don't understand that. Even with the increased revenue and visibility, I feel like the black players are still fighting for basic labor protections, like equal charter flights, better pay, health protections, working conditions, and then we got the CBA opt out. It's not just a salary negotiation; it's the fight to be seen, to be heard, valued equally, in a system that basically is profiting off of their labor but silences their voices. And so I want to know from y'all, do y'all think all the WNBA players are marketed equally? And if black players are dominating the game, why do you think they still struggle for recognition and endorsements? Your thoughts, Lil?
It's that mainstream audience myth. It's the belief that you cannot get mainstream conservative whites to support black athletes. And I just, that's not necessarily true. And it's certainly not true if you never give it a shot. So I think the WNBA is doing what they deem safe. They have a young lady that conservative audience has gravitated to, especially the white male fan. And so they want to saturate the market with her. But part of her appeal is her skills versus these other young ladies that are, seen as, athletic. If you were to remove black players from the equation, she her appeal is going to be suspect at best. I don't think she certainly doesn't have the cultural cachet, to be the face of the league. So the black and white thing, and that's because we have built a system in this country based on white superiority and black inferiority. So when you have those two dynamics at play, then you the people in power, they're gonna push to see that their side is correct. And the people that's not in power, they're gonna play to see that their side is, see that myth, it's a myth. And it is a myth. That's why black players, dominate the game in a way that they want to show that they can do what it is that you claim they can. So it's really, it's you don't have people shaping the league representing the majority of the players. And as long as you don't have that, then the people making the decisions about who gets marketed, how they get marketed, this, that, and the other, they're going to always go with what they think is safe for them. They didn't have a conservative fan base, prior to Caitlyn's ascension. And so, most of them, the fans that she bringing in, they wasn't really thinking about girls basketball too much. But now that they've come into the picture and they have finance, they have money. They the ones got the good paying jobs. It could come pay $5,000 for a ticket at the bottom.
The ticket prices going up for sure.
So they catering to who got money, and who can invest.
But I think it's who they think got money though. I think it's who they think got money.
It's not who they think got money, because they know who got money. What I'm saying?
But here's the thing. It's as if, but to me, it comes off as if they don't think the Angel could sell out a stadium. Her fan base spend money. Her fan base pop out. She bring out the stars. I don't know if they like. I don't know if they necessarily like who pops out when she pop out or who she would sell it out with, because these aren't necessarily people that they want to, that they really recognize that they should be that they should be doing business with. Like I think the WNBA misses it a lot because they make a lot of assumptions. They should be partnering with some of these businesses that are partnering with these black women, right? They should be seeing who's making deals with Angel and building in them spaces. I think my frustration with Caitlyn is that there's this group of, I don't even call them Caitlyn fans, right? They're like so don't get me wrong. Caitlyn has fans. She has a fan base. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, and I guess we call them like the Clarkies. And these are the people that are here that are just pushing a narrative. They're not here about basketball at all. They're here because she looks like the narrative that they want to push. And what frustrates me in this entire thing is that people keep saying that that's not who Caitlyn is. But if she would just open up her mouth and say that that's not who she is and really stand on business with it, not give a statement and then move different, not try to call out all of the attention that should be given to black women and the celebration that should come on, that should be happening for these black women that built this league and then retire her jersey on the same day as one of the best players to ever do this thing. Like, not that stuff. Be for real. Let us know who you are for real. And I think the more that she doesn't say anything, it's the complicity. It's the fact that she's complicit with it. That's how it comes across for me, and that's the frustration for me.
Yeah, silence. When you silent, that is complicit, and I think she's showing us exactly who she is. You know, she reminds me of the young.
Let me ask you: do you think she's doing that on purpose, or is she young and making a mistake with her brand?
No, I don't think she's young making a mistake with her brand. That's who
you think
she
that this is truly her. You think this is truly who she is, and this is her brand?
Yeah, okay. I do, and I think she understands the financial benefits.
Absolutely.
Being that way, and even though she doesn't have a cultural cachet, she can get it from riding, with the Ajas of the world, So yeah, she comes from that's a elitist group she comes from. That's that middle class, middle America, rural bred, type of entity. And that's kind of where she's from and who she is. And bottom line is she's gonna do what's financially beneficial from her. She's not a social activist. She's not an activist of any kind. And so she's not gonna, her goal is to keep her advantage and not to worry about like Paige over here worrying about what's happening with what's happening with her privilege. That's not Caitlyn, because if it was her actions would be different. She would move differently, and then the people that's managing her would be different in terms of how they position her. So she's one of those people they're gonna take advantage of every privilege they're given, and there's really nothing you could do about it. She's never gonna change. She's gonna always be the same, because she believes that she's superior and that black women that play under her are inferior. She actually believes that based on the way she's carrying herself. So she believes in that supremacy ideology, to me. And that's just my opinion. It's allegedly because I don't know the young lady. And I can only judge what she does by how she moves, in public, because I don't know what goes on in her private life. But if there was if you read the doctrine of white supremacy and how that's propagandized, you would know that she actually thinks that way. No question about it. Based on the way she's moving. Now she, I think she knows that she needs Kelsey Mitchell. She was doing a lot of hugging, and when she thought that it'd be a possibility that young lady wouldn't be there, on that team. So, and I'm sure that Kelsey was able to get the money she got because Clark needs her in that backcourt. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's
Real money. I see your comment too. I'm gonna address this directly. Yeah, we seen her say that she knows she got privileges. We seen her say she want everybody to get paid, right? She also said that she felt like black women, the ones before her, needed to be celebrated. And then what we saw her do after she said all of that, and this is where my issue came in, was that her actions didn't match the words. So I'm not never looking for no fucking apology. You don't have to apologize. Move like you mean what you say, is my point. I'm not looking for no apology. You don't have to come apologize ever, but make sure that your moves match your words. That's all I'm asking for. Make it make sense. Don't tell me that black women need to be celebrated. Black women need to be elevated. We need to go back and understand the history of this. And then when it's an opportunity to give a black woman a stage in Black History Month, you take the opportunity to do so. The day after, you just said that those same black women needed to be celebrated. So I'm not talking about fuck an apology. I'm not here for that. She don't have to never say nothing, but move like you mean what you say, because you said it like that. So since you said that's who you are, stay true to what you said your brand is. That's the part that I'm talking about, real money. That's the part that I'm talking about. Move like
it. Move like you mean it.
Yeah, move.
She didn't move like you mean it. She moved like she said it, but she didn't move like she meant it. Because
real money, and I don't want to hear nothing about no handlers. Let Caitlyn Clark decide that she don't want to do something on a day and tell me that her handler is going to be able to make her do it.
No, she's not being playing with me. She's not being.
Caitlyn ain't powerless in this situation. Caitlyn is not powerless in this situation.
She's opportunist in this situation. This was an opportunity to align her name with who's considered the global best player globally. Just coming off the Olympics and stuff like that. So anytime you get to smooch with her and of course Nike in on the deal, if you don't have a lot of marketing cachet, because I mean she can get the most bubbly personality where you just gonna fall all over.
But Dr. KJ, I think what you said, and I've been hearing players say like she's not racist. She's so not what y'all think she is, and I see you saying like working with her it tells a different story. So I respect that. But my thing is, tell somebody, and then we'll move it around. What do I think CC relationship with Aaliyah is really like? They're co-workers.
Exactly. They co-work. I mean, she could have bought herself a lot of cachet last season if she had stuck up for her own teammates.
Here's the thing. Exactly. She didn't stick up for Aaliyah. It's a lot of people above her that keeps her in line. We all know this. Yep. And if Caitlyn would have cut her camera on and said, y'all know what? They want me to retire my jersey on February the 2nd, but that's the day that we're going to celebrate one of the best to ever do this, Asia Wilson. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that. What you think her platform and her power would have been? See, stop playing with me about what her power is. She got handlers, but she also got a mouthpiece. She got handlers, but she also is the product. She got handlers, but she also has privilege. So she can cut her mic on and say those type of things.
I mean,
we all know about the handlers, but she get to say some things too.
I mean, it's Brandon, then it's you. Nike can propose things to you, or people can propose things to you. You don't have to go along with them. But if they tell you, hey, this will move you closer to having some cachet to be the face of the league, if you cut in on everything that Aja is doing, keep yourself aligned with her. You got a choice in that. You can say, no, I'm not going to do that. I want my own lane. Or, yeah, I'm going to keep on riding with anything she do to make sure she doesn't supersede me. You do have a choice. People are
all she had to do. All that walking billboard had to say was, I ain't walking that day. I bet you they went to scrambling to find a new day.
Yeah.
I bet you they went to scrambling to find a new day.
And I mean, she could have easily said, "Look, it's Black History Month. You know, let's let them have that month. Let's do it." Because Kelsey Plum retired her jersey, and she didn't do it in February. You know, she retired hers in January. That's a choice that could have been made. You know.
Yeah, it ain't about, like I said, they said she ain't racist anyway. My thing is, speak up. Tell us who you are. Tell me who you are out your mouth.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem, because as long as you're paid and straight people don't speak on what the others are going through. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like people who would see a Black person being snatched out of a jail and lynched, knowing they didn't have due process, or knowing the incident might or might not have happened, and then but you show up at the picnic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
you complicit, not opening your mouth and taking a stance. Silence is complicity in almost every case, because silence speaks volume. And like I said, I don't, you know, okay, she's not a practicing Confederate wave, you know, flag waving individual, or going to the you know, the Nazi marches and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't erase the fact that you think a certain way, or that you position yourself in a power structure a certain way.
But I think that girl, I think that this, and not girl, because she's a grown woman. But in my heart of hearts, I really don't think that she's a racist. I don't believe that she really believes all of the stuff that her branding says. But I do believe that she feels like, if I open my mouth, where am I going to be? Right? If I open my mouth and say who I really am, are the people who are supporting me right now still going to have my back? And if I step out here on this limb and say who I really am, are y'all gonna accept me and support me? And so, well, I'm with you, Dr. KJ. Let's see what she say. Let's see what she say. She got a lot of things. She got a lot of things she got to do. The crashing out too. I need her to get better with the crashing out. I seen that girl bang her head against the wall to celebrate a point. So it's some things that she has to do. The way her dad was like, stop that. I think that she's been sheltered. I don't know what Iowa's like, but it don't seem like it's a lot of us there. But I think that girl got on some of them AAU trips to see some Black people that she liked. But I don't know if her family was gonna let her bring a Black friend over. I don't know if her family was gonna let her call a Black girl and go play basketball with her. So now you in this struggle, and I believe that happens sometimes. I don't know if it's Caitlyn, but hear me out. You could have dropped me off at the basketball court, and I really like that Black girl, and I want to invite that Black girl to my birthday party. But Asia told you what? Her white friends told her what? You can come to the party, but you got to sleep outside. Because while I want you at the party, my family ain't gonna have you sleeping in my house. But I don't see no problem with you. But now I'm in this dynamic where I'm in this world where it's Black women that I want to be friends with. Is my people gonna allow it? Because they still driving me. And so now I don't know. You know, let's find out. You think silence means you agree with the system? We gonna find out. She made that statement with that dress on and everything, but then it didn't match. Her actions didn't match. That's the part that threw me off. Because she said it, and I was like, yes, here we go. And then she retired her jersey on the second, and it was like, well, that don't match. Iowa Hill, she had to keep her brown friends at bay. And she in a fight of fear. I believe so. Let's see. They said when CC banged her head against the wall earlier, Bree Hall locked her down on defense, and she got frustrated during practice. Breezy gonna bring that pressure. Because when she see Breezy, it reminds her that Raven right there. Is Raven right there? Yeah, it's on her mind. It's okay. Yeah. And the silence leads to the speculation. The silence definitely leads to the speculation. But in this, in more than any other era of sports, she got a cell phone. Probably got one of them watch things. She could cut this thing on and tell us. We don't got to wait. We don't got to worry. We don't got to wonder. She can tell us what her narrative really is. That's the part that I'm waiting on. Cut the mic on. Tell her.
Yeah, I don't care who you are in terms of you know, what your preferences are. When somebody's abusing your teammates like that, that's what threw me off about her more than anything. You just not.
Thank you, Dr. KJ.
I'm just
For
not
you to
gonna let
confirm
that
that for
slide.
me. I asked her if she see Raven in her dreams, and she said yes. For you to confirm that for me, that made all the. I told y'all, didn't I tell y'all that girl see Raven? That was life altering. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a time to speak and a time to be silent. And when the public is abusing your teammates like that, you have to speak on that. And it's something simple. Look, I got to work with these people. If you're doing this on my behalf, knock it off. Don't do things like that. I don't want my teammates to have to go offline, because I got some depraved, indifferent, depravity of the heart, type people. I don't want that kind of support. That girl's gonna have support, but you can manage how, because that people that have a depraved indifference, that's a kind of small group. But what it is, they so influential that they could cause an avalanche of people to run and follow them. Mm-hmm. They might not be the person with, carrying the hangman noose, but then they'll convince you need to come to the picnic. And
oh, here we go. We finna have a conversation now.
I just think that they have to. She has to point out things when they happen so that they don't fester and grow, and that's what I've seen her not do. And so I can only look at your actions, and I don't see much.
So let me get your thoughts on this comment right here, Lil. I think that the black media personalities also play a major role in promoting the white narrative. Like, you look at all the black media that wanted CC to win the championship, but when she lost, the camera was on her. And the flip side of that was there was no celebration of the black excellence that took place in that year. I just added that part, one love, but go.
Yeah. Well, they are what they operating in. Gail King works for CBS. Some of these people working for ESPN. They walking a tightrope. They're not gonna get out here. They gonna if CBS say we behind so and so. If you're working in that environment, you get the message. You better not run out there and support black excellence when that's not how we roll. So these people are also employees. They are the labor. They're not the ownership. So they, there's certain protocols that they have to adhere to. They are. I'm gonna give you a term. It's called meritorious manumissions, and those are people who will do things for trinkets, for jobs. They'll go against their own race and support an oppressor just to have their little piece of the pie taken care of. You have had people like that throughout our history. They, slave rebellion, they planted a slave rebellion. They the first one knocking on master door. Oh, they get ready to play, it's a slave rebellion, get ready to happen.
They riding dawn. They riding dawn, master.
Yeah, we had 600 organized slave rebellions, and every one of them was thwarted through one of us running and selling the people out.
What they say? What they say in that movie Life? This here, Bob. Bob control the gun line. Yeah. Tell him about the gun line, boss. Tell him about the gun line. Tell him about the gun line, boss. The gun, it's the one. It's the one watching the gun line.
Yeah. So it happens. Everybody that's in the media that's not on YouTube and getting a paycheck from something they don't own, they're controlled. To a certain extent. You can't walk in any environment and open your mouth and say anything you want. So ain't really a lot to that. It just is what it is. Yes, Stephen A., Shannon Sharp, all them must abide. That's why Shannon Sharp is off the TV now, because he allowed his personal to come into his professional.
I think They say he stepped down. I don't know if I haven't really went down the rabbit hole of that. I guess he stepped away and then he's gonna come back or whatever. I don't know. I'm not clear enough on his situation.
But let me ask you this: Don't we live in a country?
Oh, go ahead.
Don't we live in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty?
Yeah, you are.
Does the stepping down indicate that he's able to walk on that protocol? Because if you innocent, you shouldn't have to walk away until you proven guilty. But that doesn't seem to be the case. He could say he walked away, but I know them executives knocked on his door, rang his phone, and told him it might be best if you take yourself out the scene.
Well, but this is the second case now too. There was a case that was kind of moving around the time he stepped away from FS1 too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a case, but it was eventually. Yeah, it was eventually
covered. That was the case, and now we got another case. And here's my problem. Here's where I get in. Here's where I get into it. Where I get into it with black folks who, especially when you beat a case the first time. How in the hell do you be in a situation to have another case? How in the hell do you get yourself in a situation to be in? You was innocent. They try to put a case on you. You ended up fighting it, beating it. How the hell do you get back in that situation again?
I don't know. That was once
you say you saying Shay Shay's in a slightly different situation.
Yeah,
there's a few details behind it. They tried to warn him on his own show. Okay.
Yeah,
but that's also sometimes it's that I'll remind you too.
Yeah, once you have a vice and it becomes known, people can attack you, a lot of different ways if it's something that you can't can't control or keep under wraps. And it's just like you cannot believe that a young girl that young is trying to hang with you, and not looking for a payday now. Come on.
Do you think a black man $1 million look different than a white man $1 million?
Do I think that?
Yeah, as far as like power and privilege.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's even gonna be tax different. You know what I'm saying? It's easier to get access to a black man's $1 million than it is a white man's $1 million. I put it to you like that. It's a lot of different access points you're gonna always have to black money, especially if the person's just not smart,
Every time you gotta stay away from these cases, y'all.
I mean, you have enough historical precedents, and you certainly, if you go to the FBI website and look up lynching, I think it's 1906. 3,000 people got
half the people on the chat just fell out their chair because they didn't know that you could go to the FBI site and look up lynching. Not even there would they pull it up.
Yeah, you can pull up the cases. You got a lot of unsolved cases. You can see what the accusation was. And so it's a historical precedence, for you dealing in that white space. So as a black person, you in a white space like that, you have to be extremely cognitive of how you moving around the space. That stupid phone call. I heard that phone call and I was really like, come on. You talking about
you gonna have to wait a little longer. The prank call to Shadur.
You just gotta be careful when you're moving around. Because people, anybody that gets money, people looking for a payday out here. It's just the way it is. So yeah. So you have to that black man, white woman, all the way back to the plantation days. That's a long history. So when you're moving in them circles, you have to be cognitive of what you're doing. I mean, Shay got to understand too that even with YouTube, you don't own that platform. If they want to snatch you off, they can snatch you off, at a whim.
Anytime they want to.
So everybody's talking about, well, he can if he loses his job at ESPN, he can go to YouTube. Now the man from ESPN could call YouTube and you could be out of both.
Well, the other thing too is that it seemed like Shannon was getting ready. He had just finished his contract with Colin Cowherd's media company, so he was, I thought, getting ready to sign $100 million deal. So here it is, deal time again. Here it is, deal time again, and it's another case that's popping up. Like,
and then again,
I don't understand how this keeps working.
The young lady should have waited till he signed the contract. If he ain't got $100 million, you can't get half.
It's the silly stuff. Just the silliness of it all.
It but that's the labor market. Shannon is an employee. There's certain protocol and certain rules when you own these people television stations. They have a morality clause in most of these.
Oh yeah, y'all run them lights in for me, please.
And so you have to. You just have to be careful. I just thought, 19 kind of young. If you 54 and you still could work with somebody 19, I don't know if you progress through life that much. That's something you have to think about. So I feel sorry for the young man. His whole legacy could be destroyed, over something that was personal in his life that has now become public. So since Cess has stepped away, we could. Okay, you back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Move on to the.
What you got? Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second, y'all. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, y'all.
Oh, no problem. Okay. Yeah, I was I think we was on the where we at? We talked a little bit about the historical significance of sports as a labor market. Now, black athletes have a long, proud American story from boxing to baseball, but they rarely have controlled the money, media, or decision making. When Jackie Robinson, integrated Major League Baseball, they didn't integrate the coaching, they didn't integrate the ownership. The NCAA is another system that profits billions from black athletes, but they don't receive no pay. Now they just made $1 billion with the NCAA tournament, but they, nobody that's a black athlete went and picked up. None of the athletes went and picked up a check. Certainly not us. And then these systems, like the NBA, NFL, they depend on black labor. But coaching, executive, and ownership positions are still overwhelmingly white. And then we have athletes like Muhammad Ali, Tommy Smith, and John Carlos, Olympians, and Colin Kaepernick. They have shown how sports labor is always political and it's always racialized. You know, these systems they reproduce power imbalances where black excellence fuels the product, but white institution holds the reins. And this is how we get into situations where we have such imbalance in in these sport markets, and they kind of mirror plantations, in actuality.
Let's talk about it for a minute. Let's talk about that for a minute, because it's an interesting dynamic. Because I know people are like, yo, it's like a plantation. They put you up there. They want to know your wingspan, how tall you are, how fast you run, how high you can jump, how many tackles you can get done. But you don't have to be there. You don't have to aspire to be there. So how do we balance that part off? Like, because to me, if you work your ass off to get to the NFL, then you've accepted that that's what you're going to go be a part of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then what is the balance of that? Or is it that they're trying to get in there to change it from the inside out? Talk to me about that. Because people be like, it's like a plantation. It's like, well, if you don't want to be there, quit.
Yeah,
that's the difference between the NFL and the plantation. You can walk away from there anytime you want to. They're not going to get you. They're not going to cut your foot off or nothing. You hear me? You can leave. What? Quit. Mm-hmm. Quick, go do something else. And so how do we balance that part? Because it's like, well, if you don't like it over there, don't go there.
Well, no. What they're saying a lot of times when people make them kind of statements, they're just talking about elements of control. The bottom line is when you decide you're going to go to the NFL, WNBA, you don't have autonomy.
No, you signing up for that business.
Right. You can't do what you want to do, how you want to do it. And in a lot of cases, you have to be careful, of what you're saying or how much you protesting or this, that, and the other. So it comes down to mechanisms of pay and control. Now, at least in these sports entities, yes, you are paid. Are you paid what you're worth? Absolutely not. You're not paid what you're worth on the job either. But you do have free will in a sense that you do not have to participate. It's not.
Get a regular job.
Yeah,
it's always work at the post office, right?
Always work at the post office.
Always work at the post office. But when you do make the choice to go and work, right? Work in these environments, or in these systems, and then you make this money. How do you then turn that money into real generational wealth? How do you turn that money into real change? What does that look like? That's the part that I don't get, because what you're supposed to be doing is going in and getting some money from over there to build up over here, right?
Yeah, but that don't happen because
because everybody get complacent and then it ain't so bad. Okay, come on, let's have a real talk now. Let's go.
You got two things going on.
Mm-hmm, come on.
First of all, you look at your management group. Okay, who's handling your money? So you got a $40 million bonus. Mm-hmm. And you got a white agent. He's not gonna tell you to go put that in your community. That's not gonna happen. He's gonna give you a ton of businesses that you could invest your money in, because he's gonna ask Magic Johnson.
Why you didn't sign up? Why you didn't sign up with a black agent?
Well, first of all, it's not a whole lot of them that you could sign up to, and we've been kind of kept out of that industry. I mean, look how they tried to remove LeBron James agent. They tried to politic him out the game, like trying to put an education requirement that they know he didn't have. So let's talk Magic.
Let's talk Magic Johnson for a minute, because you brought up Magic, and let's talk about where Magic is. Because Magic is an owner of teams with an S. Okay, Washington Redskins, Dodgers, Sparks. What is Magic's responsibility in reaching back and changing? And what is his responsibility? And do you see him meeting that responsibility? Is there a responsibility? Is there a responsibility at all? Y'all let me know what y'all think.
It's a responsibility. Too much is given, much is expected. Magic has talked openly about when he was building his theaters, how he walked into these investment rooms and these people talking about some theaters in the hood. We're not doing that. I mean, but Magic has successfully been able to market the urban community and and get some things going and stuff like that. But that's not the goal of the power structure. The power structure goal is not to take capital, because if we had access to capital and had been part of the economy, we wouldn't be in these positions.
But shouldn't we have access to capital?
Yeah, we should have access to capital, but we don't have no control over who has capital and how they spend it.
But the other thing is too, I don't know if it's a black meeting or whatever. When they gonna put all their money together in a bank or something, right? Not Oprah got what, $9 billion?
You know what? They've tried the black banking thing, but let's look at the first black bank, the Freedmen's Bank. Government put that together, had every slave, come out. You can put your money in.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, why we need the government to put something together for us? I'm just saying
what happened. What happened during?
But I'm just saying.
Why we the
government to put us something together?
Because of where we started. We started with nothing. We was released from slavery with nothing but the clothes on your back.
No, but I'm talking about now. Why are we still waiting on the government to start us something? I understand the freedmen. It was like, hey, we're gonna jumpstart y'all.
But see, what happened? This is what I'm saying. It comes down to knowledge too. Now, Serena Williams is doing something unique in that she has an investment fund, to invest in black businesses. But if you're talking about putting your money in a black bank, all banks are controlled by the federal government.
Well, what I'm saying is, I'm not necessarily a black bank, but a place where black people go to be able to access funding from black people that have made money to continue to grow. Now, it don't have to be a black bank. If it's a black venture capitalist group, if it's a black, whatever that is, where is that access? And then who knows? Where are we sharing that at? Right? And, people like, the NFL is like it's slavery. It's like a plantation. Okay, so then don't play for them. Play for somebody else. The stadiums might not look as cool, but play at some of these HBCUs. Like, make your own league. Do something different. You don't have to go sign up for the NFL. If all y'all stop signing up for the NFL, then what are we watching in the NFL? But everybody has to agree.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Capital.
I mean, you think
we get together in a group and we be like, we gonna do it, and then they be like, pss, 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 and then they be to pick 2, 3 off, and then you look up, they didn't pick 2 or 3 of them off, and then 2 of them that fell off because they done got caught up in something else stupid, and then here we is again, looking around trying to get started. We always trying to get started. Yeah. We should have been started.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how they dismantled the Negro League. That was very clever. They under the guise of integrating Major League Baseball, but that was really about destroying the Negro Baseball League. That had a lot of money in it. Blacks were a large audience supporting baseball back then, and what the young man at the Dodgers owner saw was he walking around. Okay, let me see. They spending money over here at the baseball park. Well, if I put one of them with us, because we was in that mode that we had to be like them, then I could bring that capital with them.
Oh, weird.
And that's kind of what they did. And then nobody thought to try to keep the leagues going, because all of the best talent. See, what they wanted is access to that talent pool, to that labor pool. And so they, that's the way they control money. I mean, it's not a black with money right now that could go to a government entity and say, hey, I want to build a stadium. That's not going to happen. They're not going to let you build the infrastructure, to kind of do your own. And even though we got HBCUs, they're heavily funded by who.
Yeah.
So
but heavily funded by who, because we don't put nothing back into them. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. I'm a HBCU graduate. I haven't gave nothing to the alumni fund. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. I'm being honest. It's a lot of us out there. Now I'm gonna try to do better. I ain't gave back to the alumni fund. I left school. I got a transcript and that was it, y'all. I haven't thought about it. So we got to be better. We've got to be better at all levels. At all levels. How we support, how we spend our money, where we spend our money, all that. Right? Like Asia shoes getting ready to drop in May. Who getting some? Dawn book drop May 25th. Who ordering it? Right? Like how do we give back? How do we support? How do we show up?
It's not easy because we never had just the capital to do a lot of things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so controlled and it's been going on so long, and it's, you know, we seem to be just waking up to a lot of things.
But here's the thing: it don't seem like these young folks is just waking up to a lot of things. Young people's approach is very different. They ain't waiting on nothing. They don't need nothing at the power structure. They gonna be their own influencer. They gonna get some YouTube followers. They gonna get a brand and just do that only thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, send $20 a month, even if that's all. If that's all I got, make it happen. I'm gonna make that commitment to send some money back to my school. I ain't been doing it. I ain't gonna hold y'all up. I ain't been doing it. So we all can be better. You on the list for the Asians? Absolutely. I hear what you're saying, and it hasn't stopped several people in groups from trying to start something of substance. The truth is the truth, though, and that is why people are delusional right now. And then we just lose sight of stuff. Like it was a group of people that was gonna make a black city. They bought up a whole lot of land in Georgia, I think. I don't know what happened to them. What came of that? We lose the information behind some of these things, and it doesn't have to be done. We just need to make a decision as a group of what it is that we want. If we are playing in these arenas, then we need to be playing in these arenas and then bringing the money back so that it builds generational wealth out, so that we are in control of some other things.
Well, you see what Juju is doing with her brand. She's and even Simone the swimmer. You know, they started incorporating community-based set-asides that go along with, you know, the corporate sponsorship. You know, Juju asks for money for community-based activities. You know, and those are things that we have to do, you know, in order to funnel this money back. But the way they got these leagues and things set up, and the way they got these agents set up, and you know, they control the money. They control the flow of the money. And like I said, it's not too many times you're gonna have certain agents, you know, like Michael Jordan's agent. You know, he wasn't telling Michael Jordan, you know, run your money over here. You wouldn't even let him, you know, pump up a black candidate. You know, he was told to stay neutral.
Well, let's talk Michael. I love to talk Michael because Michael stayed away from politics for sure. But Michael made his impact on the business side. So no, Michael didn't invest in no politics. And I agree. If I don't know who they is, I don't got nothing to say about it. That's a real Aquarius thing to do. The comment about Republicans buy shoes too, from what he said, that was something said in jest that just lived as a as an urban legend. But the thing that I think people don't give enough credit for Michael about, and if you check out Michael's foundation right now, they're doing a whole lot of, I think, free clinics right now. Michael Jordan Foundation is putting free clinics in places that black people need healthcare. But the thing that Michael did that people don't talk about is that he made his impact on the business side. So he blackened up Nike. Everybody that worked in this company, all of those officers, they had to be people of color. They had to be black people. As an owner at Charlotte, think about all the black people that he gave, and within his company, and people are like, that's not enough. But think about that. All of the black people that he gave access to wealth, to positions, to titles that they never would have had working for any other NBA entity. He made that happen within his organization as the owner there. People talk about
he did a lot of things quietly. You know,
quietly.
He financed the Malcolm X movie, and you know, he was always doing some community-based stuff, you know, here and around Chicago. But if he had been out loud with some things, you know, they'd have been looking to put him in a box.
Exactly. But the other thing that people don't remember about Michael Jordan now is that he was the first one to show y'all how to go be a global star. Tell me the one that was a global star before him. Mm-hmm. He had a certain line he had to walk. He had the code switch. He couldn't just do it his own way. He had to be able to get in these rooms and see how it was working. Then he could make some moves. Staying silent on controversial things. Yes. Investing and donating for decades. They don't know but the reason that they don't know is because they accept the narrative that Michael don't do nothing for black folks. They accept the narrative that, he charged $200 for some shoes. But I see the same people be like, he $200 for some shoes, why he ain't giving away in the hood? But y'all ain't asking, y'all not asking Louboutin to give nothing away in the hood. Y'all go get them red bottles, won't you? Whatever they cost. Y'all not looking for nobody to give you no discount on them. And the thing is, he don't owe you no goddamn discount. Because you're not looking for no discount nowhere else. Why does he as a black person owe you a discount? Or he need to give it back to you for cheaper than what it is? When you would pay the white man for it if he was selling it.
Full price.
So that's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Mike just sent me $2 million. Malcolm X University told him to put his car and pictures all over. See what I'm saying? Let's go. Poor folks mentality. He invests in prisons, rumors. He invests in prisons. He invests in. They was making his shoes in the
chop shop
in the child factories over. Stop playing. Okay, come on. Okay, all that stuff. But if you really go back and look, and I think it was Scoop Jackson. I think it was Scoop did a really good article on how Michael invested and how he made his influence and is different. Right. So.
Yeah, it's not always prudent to be loud, loud about what you're doing. Because if you let everybody know your plans, then it's easy for people to cut in and stop them. So sometimes you got to move in, quietly and make an impact, without
I was surprised. Loud. I was surprised at how many people Oprah Winfrey sent through Alabama State. Nobody know. She's paying for kids to go to school at HBCUs all over the state, all over the nation. They've been making Nike shoes in China for decades. Only a few players get killed for that nowadays. One of them ain't Jordan. Hey, that's just how I go. But just a narrative that people push behind Michael Jordan without even really looking at the impact that he made, the generational wealth that he created, the opportunities that he created. It's in places that nobody giving no opportunities at before. Mm-hmm. Okay, you getting 2 pairs because it's mother. I love it. Yeah, poor folks mental. This conversation has gone all over the place. But I did want to talk a little bit about. I did want to shift the conversation just a little bit before we get ready to get out of here. Lou, you still good on time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Because it's not just about salaries; it's about power structure control, right? And so I said earlier, the WNBA was built on the backs of black and brown women athletes. But when you look at who's in the big decision making seats, the coaches, the execs, the owners, that's that inequality that you were talking about, where those who perform the labor don't get to shape the labor market, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to ask who really controls the league. And what does that mean for the black women who drive it forward every single season, right? We're getting to a point. We're getting to a place we're starting to see a shift. But up until last year, with Unrivaled and AU over a little bit less over the previous 3 seasons, most WNBA players was relying on that overseas money to be able to make it. Like that was allowing them a livable wage. And that reflects a systemic undervaluing of women's sports, especially those dominated by black athletes. The league structure shows that there's a clear inequity in the leadership. Few black head coaches, even fewer black executives, decision makers don't reflect the makeup of the player base. How do we address that? The ownership is nearly all white. This means players, especially black players, have little say in how the league is run, how it's marketed, or how it's funded. But they're the talent, the face, but not the voice behind the league's future. Why do you think there are so few black coaches and executives in the league made up mostly of black players? Y'all let me know in the chat. And if black women are dominating on the court, shouldn't they have more power off the court too? And I think we saw a good example of what that could look like with how Unrivaled is coming along. But
Absolutely.
how would the WNBA look different if there was more black ownership and leadership? What's your thoughts on that, Lou?
Well, you would certainly know what black players were thinking. If you was coaching them, you would know how to coach them differently. They're not addressing their needs, and the most glaring situation is in the marketing. How can you have a league of 70% black women and you don't market, and you don't even use, I would say, 5% of your marketing towards them. How can you have Stewie and them being represented as the champion, but you're not putting their face on TV, and I think it's because of who's leading New York. And then you have a dominant player playing for the Aces who has been globally recognized as the best player in the world. Yet you don't put any dollars towards her. That's because you don't have anybody in the league office telling you to do that. You haven't gone to a minority or a black agency, marketing agency, and in fact, giving them a contract to do that marketing for you. So it's like everything that you're doing is being shaped by just the ownership group. And they are just tunnel focused on getting this conservative market money, and so you're leaving them behind. And until that dynamic changes, you're gonna always have this imbalance, and how these young ladies are marketed. I mean, I don't understand. One thing I'm suggesting is maybe that these black players form their own independent marketing entity, to market themselves, because the league just is stuck on what they're going to do, and it doesn't seem like they're going to change, or make no changes, because they believe that's where they, going to get the most capital, capital returns. So I don't know, it's just a disconnect, They said that they give certain players marketing budgets and have them do little different things like that, but I don't know.
Well, before he had got into all that trouble, Diddy had a marketing company a marketing agency that was putting black people in commercials. It's called Blue Flame. It's called Blue Flame Marketing, or Blue Flame Marketing Agency, something like that. A lot of people didn't even know that was Puffy's. And I still call it Puffy because I'm just that old. But like he had a marketing agency out there where he was putting black folks in commercials that were coming out to us, the Burger King commercials, some of these main company commercials. He was controlling the marketing narrative on those. And I just wonder. I mean, he did it quietly for years. People didn't even really know that it was him. But he did attempt to buy an NFL team too. But I just wonder why these players, especially in today's day and age where you got platforms and podcasts and these individual connections, why we haven't seen that develop.
Oh, it's definitely a lack of league interest and league capital. If they usually you take 20%, and say you made $200 million, you take 20% of that to do your marketing. But they, I don't know, they, I guess, feel like they can get away with it. They will, okay. Until we as a fan base start doing more demanding about what we're seeing. And of course, I'm sure it's going to be addressed in the new CBA. They going to work on the old structure, old principles.
You think so?
We own it. We're going to market it the way we want to do it until something, comes in and changes the dynamic. Because I mean, look how much free marketing they're getting from Angel Reese.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the circles that she running in, you know, as an independent marketer, they benefiting off of that. You know, so
absolutely.
you know,
Is it true that Joy signed a $30 million entertainment deal and donated 10 of it back to the university? I saw somebody posted that on Facebook, but I did not find another really reputable post of that I trust, so I cannot confirm that. I haven't been able to confirm that. If somebody has a link where we can confirm that, please share. What's up, Russell, over there on the Instagram, holding it down. Appreciate you, fam. So, Lil, the salary cap squeeze. Who's really winning? Who's really winning with the salary cap? When we talk salary cap in the WNBA, and people need to understand that's a hard salary cap. So it's not like they can pay a luxury tax and just hire or pay whoever they want to pay or pay however much they want to play.
Well,
the U has really. Go ahead.
When you think about the fact that they only made 9.3% of the 200 million in revenues that came into the league,
mm-hmm.
the players are being lowballed. You know, they don't have. It's not like the men. The men have a solid 50-50 split between 49 and 51%. They have a solid split. The women got a bunch of stipulations with they split. In other words, you got to hit certain revenue targets to get those higher, you know, to get that 50%. If you don't hit them revenue, and I don't know how they let that, you know, even become part of the CBA. But you know, the NBA helped them with the CBA, so you can kind of see they kind of got jacked. But you know, unless you interject a way for them to get another portion of that 50% that the NBA owns, you know, your salary is going to just be stagnated. You know, according to the research sources, they only got 9.3% of $200 million. That's not a lot of money
at all
to divide between 144 players and to take care of your other business, you know, that you have to take care of. But that's because every bit of money that comes in, 50% of it is gone. You know, to the NBA kind of off the top. And they need to get them out the mix some kind of way. You know. So those issues are going to change, but I don't know how much. You know, you think about it, you know, if they had got 50% of that 100 million, shoot, people be making almost $650,000, you know,
well, I mean,
a year for their salary.
If you get 50% of the 200 million, you could cash the NBA out, the 50 million that you owe them, and move on. I almost wonder if the NBA doesn't want to be bought out. A part of the NBA wants to always own a piece of this thing, right? Like they want their hand in it some kind of way.
I would be hard pressed to see them stepping out of it now that the popularity has gone to the level it is. I don't, you know, $2.2 billion contract, and TV rights, and you're able to get 50% of it. I don't know. You know, they don't really need the league. I really wish they would allow some kind of buyout. You know,
I don't think they want to be bought out either.
Yeah, they just holding on to that because it's an asset.
Absolutely, it's an asset, and it's an asset that they held on to for 20, like we've been holding this thing for 30 years. It's not really doing anything, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, shit, we finally got to the oil. We just struck oil now. Hold on, and so now they still want a piece, and it's like, okay, we got to the oil, but let's figure out how to go our separate ways. What does it cost to get you out the business, get you out of our business? They want a piece of it to keep it as a tax write-off because they're going to keep lying about a loss on the books. Oh yeah, for sure. It's easy to just say, you know, we took this loss on the WNBA. Now I want them out the dub business. Need a whole restructure assess. When I say we can make some shifts, we can. I'm in and working with systems. built the market. That's why I'm coming for you. Not afraid to speak up. Oh, we finna do it. Let's get it. If they ever have a down year, the NBA could play a hard bargain. They came back for anything. So, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that because we talking CBA, and I'm gonna take a, let's talk. I don't even know if we had notes on this one, Lil, so we might be just going off the cuff right here. But leveraging their power as a labor market in this climate right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is now the time to stand on business and say, hey, if we don't get these demands that we're looking for in the CBA, that we're going to go for the work stoppage?
I don't think there'll be another opportunity.
And that's what I was going to ask. Do you see? Because to me, and they're not as powerful as I would like for them to be in this situation, but they're not as powerless as they were in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And so, is this the best time to kind of strike? And I'll remind y'all a little bit real quick, before I pass it over to you. The 2020 CBA, and what it gave them, right? Like we gave them the 50-50 revenue split. I think they set the benchmarks for when the 50-50 split would kick in, right? Because it's not guaranteed.
That's conditional.
Okay, and so we did all of that. We got the leverage, and now we're asking where the money at, who's setting the success bar, and how are players supposed to win in the system where the rules are locked behind the door they don't even got a key to. So what do we do in this, and how do we leverage this power at this time?
Well, the best leverage they came up with was unrivaled. I mean, the ability to get that $100 million contract for TNT, and now that you got all of these streaming services, you're not stuck with 2 or 3, TNT and ABC, so to speak. So the audience draw, the selling out of the various stadiums, and then you just go down the ecosystem and look at it on the lower levels. How it's just taking off, and people just becoming more interested in it, willing to invest. Because in any country, sometimes you just run out of things to invest in. So a lot of people are taking their liquid money and investing in sports entities. I know people have talked about, they losing $40 million a year. Some like you don't looked at the tax returns. People do fabricate numbers. I don't believe they are sustaining those kinds of losses. And if they were, why wouldn't they be willing to put up their tax returns even to the players? They don't have any kind of disclosure that proves that they're losing that kind of money. But if you don't strike while the iron is hot, after the success you just had of that 3-on-3 league, you just might not get another chance. Even potential buyout of at least 25%, something that could get the players a little more equity in the thing. All these things need to be put on the table, and I believe they will. And then you don't need to have the NBA do the CBA this time. That needs to be the players and a party that's going to look out for their best interests. So that you don't have to give up various concessions. And then these revenue projections, I'm not going to agree to not letting it be a 50-50 split, and then I can't even see your books. No, they don't do that with the men. To me, it's been a little bit of a shaft job going on with the women, because nobody gonna tell me somebody gonna stay in business 26 years and they not break it even. And now they may not be making the profits like the NBA makes tremendous profits, but you covering your expenses, making maybe a little bit of profit. Maybe you projected 50% profit, but you didn't make the 10, but profit is profit.
Right. So, but I want 50% of that. Whatever that 10 that you made, I want 50% of that. Whatever it was.
And they definitely got to get that off the, you don't have nobody clipping you off the top of your revenues. The 50-50 split. I mean, what are you contributing, in order to get that bigger split and then off of the top, letting us play in the stadium, I mean, half of the league is owned by private people, and then half of the league is owned by these NBA teams. So it's not just a straight, cut.
And I wouldn't. So to me, it was backwards to me that the Dub would let people buy and set up new teams before they got every team with an individual owner.
Yeah,
right. So they had every team out of NBA ownership. That was just weird to me. That was just weird. I want the W Players Association to link up with the folks over in women's soccer to see how they got their CBA done. Bamboozle, yeah, that ain't make no sense.
So I just think with the momentum that has come in and the fact that you were able to opt out of the CBA, you got to strike while the iron is hot. And then I like the fact that they invited the commissioner down. Commissioner does work for the ownership. Invited her down, and she was able to see, okay, now I have a visual ideal of what these ladies are looking for, in terms of quality. Another thing, they're gonna have to do something about these unequal facilities. You can't have one team like, the Sky still playing in that little gym. Let's stay hard. But and then, have a laid out facility like the Aces.
Right.
Because they only putting pressure on these new incoming teams in terms of, you gotta add this facility, this, that. No, you got to do this across the board. This is something that the NBA, while you snatching 50% off the top, why don't you subsidize some of the building of these facilities? Because I don't see anywhere in my research where they contributing anything. It look like they sitting back, like the mafia. Collecting. Yeah. So you have to even things out. You cannot have some athletes training in these substandard facilities and then other, training in, these superstar, type of facilities. They just deserve more. And that falls under working conditions, which is something they're going to be fighting for, in that CBA coming up.
Absolutely.
Well, they're already in negotiations,
they're in negotiations, and I hope that they get to a solution and they sign a new agreement.
I think it has to be done by October of this year.
But as we've looked at it, I wasn't sure, but like I said, I don't know that they're as powerful as I would like for them to be. But this is they're not powerless either, and so this would be a good time for them to try to leverage whatever power that they do have. Before we close out though, and we're gonna get out of here, but I wanted to talk about one other thing. Are WNBA players workers, or are they just entertainers? Because we see the highlights, we throw up the claps for the big plays, but behind all the buckets, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sacrifices, Black women are the WNBA. They're the engine, the heartbeat, the reason that it moves. But how much control do they really have over the product that they power? Right? Let's the ownership, the media deals, the revenue rights. Who's actually making those calls? If these women are the labor force behind a $1 billion industry, why are they still fighting tooth and nail just to get a bigger slice of what they built with their own hands? That's the part I don't get. It's not sports. This ain't labor justice. It's about power. It's about future-proofing the league that's supposed to reflect the women who carry it on their backs every night and making sure it's truly going to reflect the women who carry it as we move it forward. This is lightning in a bottle right now. We're not going to see, I don't know when we'll see a time like this in women's basketball again, right? These next draft classes that are coming in over the next 3 to 5 years, special. More than one generational talent in some of these draft classes that are coming in. So this is a time where this is an explosion, but it doesn't really reflect who's carrying it. Do you see WNBA athletes as workers with labor rights or as entertainers with limited power? And what would it look like if Black women players actually had seats at the ownership or policy making table? And who do you think currently controls the image and the narrative of the Dub? And should that change? Y'all let me know. What do you think?
Well, the way I see it, it's the same old power structure, and even though that needs to change, that's currently what we see. But see, it was like that for the men too, until Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and they came in and they were able to approach the commissioner and tell him, hey, look, we need a piece of this, and this. And it became, it went from an owner control league to really a player control league. And that's what's going to have to happen for the women. You're going to have, Caitlyn Clark, she got to step up. You gotta have your Angel Reese's, your Caitlyn Clarks, Nafia, Stewie. All of them gotta be at the table. They gotta make demands. And they can't cow down to this marketing campaign. You're gonna hear the marketing campaign come out. Oh, we losing money, and the players are being greedy, and this, that, and the other. Yeah, but put your books out there so we can see. Let me see your tax return.
Absolutely.
Things like that. But they're gonna have to do something similar to what the men do. Men did back in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, in order to reestablish the power dynamics. They have to make it a players' league. But the guys made a whole lot of money for these owners. And as they was making so much money, they kind of relinquished, their hold on the thing, and they let these young men roll. Because I remember when Magic came in the league, they wasn't getting a dime off of the jerseys. they wasn't getting nobody. Right. He got with Larry and told Larry, "Hey, look, we not getting a cut of this merchandise money, and I'm going to holler at Stern." And you're going to have to back me up, And when he went to Stern, look, I already talked to Larry. And so he already knew his other major star, was on board with what they was doing. Y'all going to have to give us a cut of this. This is how Angel and Caitlyn have to move.
Right.
They're going to have to team up in order to get, more equity out of the league. If they stay on separate ends, with her,
they can keep pitting them against each other.
Yeah, then you're gonna mess around, and this time gonna pass, and you still gonna wind up holding the short end of the bag. So it's a lot of things that need to go on. These women are gonna have to put it to these owners, because the thing is, you want to move from being an employee to being a partner. You want to partner with the league. You want to make yourself as a player as responsible for promoting and growing that league as the ownership group. Because the ownership group can't keep holding you back with this one-dimensional thing. But I'm just saying, the dynamics have to change. You have to make money. Stop making money off me and make money with me. Has kind of got to be the attitude going forward. And I just think they gonna pull it off. Without a work stoppage. Without a
y'all run them likes up for us, please. Y'all run them likes up for us, please. If it's your first time here, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, stay in the conversation. Ron, I see you saying get to your 2 questions before we get out of here. With Jewel Lloyd added to the Aces, are they the faves coming into the season? They're my faves coming into the season because I'm an Aces fan. I think Jewel will have an impact, but she didn't make them the faves for me coming into the season. Asia's work, what I saw out of Chelsea Gray at Unrivaled, and the potential of what Harmony and Nye can add. I'm really excited about Jewel. I'm kind of waiting to see it on Jewel. I want to see what Jewel does based on how things were at Seattle and then where she was at in Unrivaled. And then your second comment was, why don't the WNBA highlight the women before the current ladies? The current fans know about Cheryl Miller, Teresa Edwards, Cynthia Cooper. They do a poor job at keeping the history alive. But not just Cheryl Miller, Teresa Edwards, and Cynthia Cooper. There's people walking around right here who don't know Swing Cash, Cheryl Swoops, Tweety Nolan, Cheryl Ford. This is one of the league that has. They do a terrible job with the living legends that they have walking around the game.
Yeah,
They
don't
don't
even
do
come on as ambassadors, like they do in hockey.
ambassadors or nothing. Have them, So yeah, they definitely could do. They definitely could do more than that. More with the living legends that they have around the league. And I'm hoping to be able to influence them to be able to do those things. Got the YouTube comments. Mo Mac, not a popular request, but the homework for the week is to find out how much NBA teams get as a tech write-off for the W teams they own. Great question. W operated at a loss this season. They cut the average loss by 20% this past season. Okay. Yeah, that's monumental. Absolutely. White women, specifically brown women, are tired of being called angry and bitter. They must speak out without fear. Oh, absolutely. Oh, all the greats. You know what I mean? You got to name all the greats. We talk about them. We got a story about Teresa Edwards. We got a story about
McLean.
we did. We
We
got
did McLean.
Katrina
We did
McClain,
Candace. We did Montgomery.
Candace. Yeah, so we got stories out there, and we will keep bringing that type of coverage. That's kind of what PoliSports Tea Time is about, being able to have these type of conversations and shine a spotlight on the black and brown women that continue to build this league. And I think just all of the things that are important to them, the spotlight on them, the marketing on them, the empowerment of them, and then being able to have this open dialogue with y'all. To be able to push this narrative out. Rita Williams' short-lived career, but was hella good. Another great name, especially Swoops and Staley. People don't realize Staley was that deal. The women on the Olympic gold run that made it possible. The McGee twins, Saudi Roundtree. Yeah, I mean, so many players that I got a chance to be able to watch. Some of these players that are in the chat right now play some ball too. Sacramento Monarchs, Yolanda Griffith, Tisha Pinachero, Ruthie Bolton. The list goes on and on and on and on. Lauren Jackson. Yeah, we don't talk about a lot of these names, but we're going to get to those. We're going to get to those. We appreciate y'all pulling up and hanging out with us today. Lil, you got anything before we get ready to go?
Just understand that every act is a political act. This act with the CBA is a political act. Support these ladies as much as you can this season as they go into some hardball negotiations. And that's all I got to say. Support.
Support. Yep. Today, y'all, we unpacked a lot. We talked about the WNBA as a racialized labor market. We dug into how power, pay, and policy don't reflect the faces on the court. We broke down structural inequalities from who owns the league to who gets the mic, the marketing deals, and the media shine. We've seen that black women athletes are not just playing the game, they're trying to change it. And now with the new models like Unrivaled, they're building what they've been denied: ownership, equity, and voice. So the question is no longer, can they shift the balance? It is, will we support them when they do? Will we challenge the old systems to make space for something better? Will we keep pushing until these women are not just the face of the league, but the ones shaping its future? So we're going to get ready to get out of here. We broke down this race, labor, politics, and it all collide in this game we love. But this is just the beginning. Here at Cess Talk Sports and BY's PoliSports Tea Time podcast, we locked in on keeping these combos going. We're going to keep amplifying the real voices, dropping real insight, and pushing for real change, because that's what it's going to take. We really, really, really appreciate y'all. Let's go. We really, really appreciate y'all pulling up today and being part of this critical conversation. Y'all know together we got the power to shake the table. Don't forget that. We want to hear from y'all. Drop y'all thoughts in the comments. If you want to rewatch, light up the chat. Don't hold back. What's your take on the CBA fight? What would the dub look like if black women truly held the power they earn? This is our moment to flip the narrative, y'all. Let's keep talking about it. Let's keep pushing it. Y'all remember to like, comment, share the video, hit that subscribe button. And y'all know what it is. It's never just about the game. It's about the stories we tell and the change we create together. Stay tuned for more Cess Talk Sports and BY's PoliSports Tea Time. I'm Cess, your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies, and that's Political Lil, the realest in the game. Till next time, y'all stay tuned. Talk soon. I'm out.